I wanted to bring up this thing about Hollywood because I think this is from the Daily Wire. I think it shows, whatever that is, weird website or whatever.
Shout out.
Apparently, there's a bunch of links on Facebook.
Daily Wire.
Daily Wire. Yeah. So no. But I think most people are not into this. The problem is, social media has created it's the foreground, and people don't realize that it looks really big because it's right in front of our faces, but it's actually really small. So let me pull some of this up. This is a Daily Wire poll. Most Americans oppose Oscars diversity requirements. They say the majority of Americans don't believe in diversity requirements. Don't believe diversity requirements should be a significant factor in whether or not a film is nominated for an Oscar at the Academy Awards, according to the findings of a new SurveyMonkey poll commissioned by the Daily Wire. They say 63% of respondents agreed that films should solely be judged on their artistic merits, while only 24% of respondents say diversity should be a significant factor in a film's nomination. The other respondents indicated they were unsure. Nearly half of non-white respondents, 48%, said artistic merit should be the sole consideration, while 38% said diversity should be factored in the nomination decision. To me, I am not surprised. The ratings are in the gutter.
Yeah.
It's not just the ratings for Hollywood. CNN news outlets, ratings are in the gutter. Mm-hmm. Fox News, apparently the only outlet that's actually maintained their ratings post-Trump. Though they did take a big hit, during Trump, like at the end.
They had some pushback during the election.
Right. I look at these TV shows and you see the ratings are down. You look at the Grammys, you look at the Oscars. Nobody wants to watch this stuff. You look at some of these movies that have come out and wow, have they not made money? Yeah. Birds of Prey. Did you see that movie?
No.
You're lucky.
Look at you.
It's not for the flight back. I should not.
You do not want to watch that movie.
No.
It is, the issue I take with it is that it's all based off of this. It's like indignation. It's this anger.
Yeah.
It's not a positive question. So I think back to old content, old shows back in the day that I thought were progressive or in a sense, or talked to civil rights, for things for kids that were done right. Yeah. I always reference Static Shock, the cartoon. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No.
I mean, it was a kids show, and you have this character, Virgil Hawkins. He's a young black teenager. He gains superpowers. The stories they go through are about, his best friend is gay. Should he join a gang? Yeah. And it was done in a very inquisitive way that explained a point.
Yeah.
Today's version of politics in shows like wokeness and diversity requirements are bashing you over the head with anger about how you're evil and wrong and we're mad at you.
Yeah.
It's very, very different from just telling someone what would be right. You know what I mean?
Well, I think part of it is because, getting back to your might makes right argument earlier, one would hope that in a civilized society, we can all just persuade one another through arguments that, hey, my view of this social question is right, and so here's my argument. But because the left has now basically abandoned that, and I don't just mean they don't make good arguments, and their arguments are no good. I mean, as a product of their radical ideologies over the years, they have come to deny the reality of the objective world, right? They'll actually say things like objective truth. That's actually a white supremacist dog whistle. Yep. Things like that. So that if they're going to deny that, then argument falls apart. And so it has to be angry or at least threatening in the sense that if they want to get you to go along with their program, they've just got to make you do it. They're not going to persuade you. It won't be gentle.
At what point do you legislate? I was thinking of this earlier. You were saying, do you have the right to tell someone, I think you should do this? Yeah. And yes, I believe you do if it's not a certain type of sedition or whatever. But at what point should you be able to legislate, I think you should do this? And that's basically kind of what our government does. And now it's what our social media is doing because it's one of the new forms of government.
Because it is the government. Right.
How are they legislating? By public opinion? By fear mongering? This juror was afraid that they were going to.
Well, so it's the anger, it's the negativity, it's the rage instead of the compassion. So a good example, I'm trying to think of what's a really good example of how they do wokeness wrong. And how about Ghostbusters 2016? Have you seen that one?
Nobody saw that one. I don't think I'm alone here.
Awful. Why? Because they think that the idea of diversity in movies is being mean and nasty and insulting. Yeah. So they're mad that we do Captain America, we do Thor and Iron Man, and it's all white males. Yeah. I don't care that it's white males. I have no problem with, Shang-Chi, it's the new Marvel movie coming out. It's an Asian lead with Asian characters. I'm like, cool. When they see those three movies where it's all white men, their reaction is to make a movie where they insult and berate and belittle white men.
Yeah.
It's like, how that's not social justice. That's just the same thing, but just being mean to people.
You're right.
I think about a movie like Wonder Woman, the first one, or say like Edge of Tomorrow, where they actually just have strong female characters to represent female characters, and they don't insult you and bash you over the head and tell you you're a moron or you're toxic or you're stupid. To me, that's the main issue here.
But it's a good rule of thumb I've found is that when you're trying to understand something the radical left is doing, just invert reality, invert the traditional order. So traditionally, humility is the beginning of wisdom, right? Very important virtue. What does the left celebrate? Pride. Not just gay pride. It's like fat pride, skinny pride, slut pride. All these various marches to embrace pride. Which a friend of mine once said it used to be I think it was Thomas Aquinas called it the queen of all vices, and now my friend referred to it as the vice of all queens, which I think that's not nice. That's not a nice thing. It's very politically incorrect. But it's because it's way beyond the gay question. If you look at the essence of Christianity, what is it? That in this fallen world you have the incarnation of perfect good, the actual God himself, the second person of the Trinity, incarnate into the world to redeem mankind. What do you have on the left? You have the exact inversion of that. You have no shot at redemption, no shot at the incarnation of the good, but you do have the incarnation of evil in the character of the straight white man who knows that he's a man, it keeps getting narrower and narrower.
We talked about this before the show a little bit, moral frameworks,
yeah.
And something I've definitely mentioned on the show, that there are a lot of liberals in this country who are like, if you need religion to be moral, then like I'm scared of what you really think, or like what you would do without religion. You must be crazy.
Yeah.
And the example of Bill Maher, who would say something like, I don't need religion to have morals, and they don't realize that their morals are built upon the Judeo-Christian framework.
Right. Of course. Well, of course. I mean, it's always so sophomoric. When that fad happened in the mid 2000s, the new atheists. I always felt the old atheists were a lot more impressive. I mean, I tried reading some of their books. They were sophomoric. I mean, they were so shallow that they weren't even making the arguments they thought that they were making. And someone like Bill Maher, yes, where does Bill Maher get his morality from? His civilization, which is built on Christianity. You can use the phrase Judeo-Christian, whatever you want. He was raised, I guess, in a Jewish household. Who knows?
Literally like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, individuals who are fairly religious individuals, to say the least.
It's built on Judeo-Christianism and a little bit of moral, or I guess you call it authoritarian militantism. Like,
what do you mean?
Well, we just massacred the Native Americans to form our country, and pride. Like, we're talking about humility and pride.
No, I don't think that's fair.
Think about
I don't think that's fair.
Think about
to
American
settlers.
pride.
Well,
Proud to be an American pride.
Right. Hold on.
Okay.
We're talking about, there are certain things that in the Bible and the Torah.
Yeah, like humility.
But
America's not a humble place.
But what we
that's a good. It's the place that makes Donald Trump.
They talk about pride and how great
Trump represents, like turning American culture up to 11. It's like
the
epitome of
like pride.
But
he's prideful.
Listen, it comes from, I think, a decay of that moral framework.
Well, where does pride? What is the American thing with pride? Because humility is a virtue and pride is a sin.
I think America's a humble country, and I actually think even Trump is politically one of the most humble politicians we've ever heard. Not because he doesn't have an ego; he slaps his name on every building he ever saw, but it's because he understands that there are limits to politics, and there's limits to what he can do. I mean, when he comes in, he says, "Look, I'm a flawed guy, but I fix things, and we're going to make it a little bit better." Conservatives traditionally have this idea, you can't remake the world into this utopia. To me, that's a very, very humble position.
I think we can rag on Trump for his character and persona as a representation of some of the worst things, like turning American culture up to the 11 and just really blasting the saturation. He turns orange.
The casinos and the supermodels.
Right. Yeah. But politically, Trump wouldn't send the military or the feds into these riots.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. He there was so many things Trump should have done. He wouldn't do. He wouldn't fire people.
Yeah.
He wouldn't force his way. And they kept screaming he was a fascist when he literally wouldn't do these things. In fact, Donald Trump shut down the child detention centers.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden reopened them.
Yeah.
So
he built them too.
Look, Trump, I would not say could be described as humble.
Not at all.
But
he strikes me as prideful as all get out. His name on buildings, he's all like, I'm the best. Like, that's pride. And
but
we're told as Americans.
When it comes to politics and the actions he took as a president absolutely he was more humble than, say, Joe Biden was. Joe Biden can rhetorically be humble. That's a fact. Donald Trump was the opposite of humble.
I don't think either of those guys. To be a cult leader, you got to be...
shuts down the facilities. You know why? Donald Trump shut down the child facilities because the left was yelling at him. Donald Trump banned bump stocks because the left was yelling at him. Yeah. Joe Biden tells the right to screw themselves.
Well,
Barack Obama similarly.
Let me develop this a little, because I think pride is an American virtue in a lot of ways. It's a Catholic sin, but it's in the United States, it's like proud to be an American. And they teach you that as a kid. They taught me that as a kid, that yes, you want to be prideful of your things, and it's good. And in a lot of ways, it does help you succeed in a capitalist society.
But do you think when I say, I mean, it just seems to me we're using this word pride in different ways. Like when I say I'm proud to be an American, aren't we just talking about love of country, patriotism? It's sort of an extension of filial piety. Like, I agree there's a degree of national pride that's a really bad thing when you say, like, every other country's awful and we're just going to take them all over and everything. But in a way, America, I think, doesn't do that. We bomb the Middle East a lot, but I don't know that we do that. We kind of open our country up. We say, hey, man, come on in. We want all the best from everywhere.
We let in more immigrants than any other country, don't we?
I mean, the movement of immigrants into this country over the last 60 years is the largest movement of people ever on Earth in the history of the world. So people love it, and we let a lot of people in. I mean, so much so that now it's become very difficult, if not impossible, to assimilate all. We're talking about millions of people every single year, and if you even raise the prospect of, hey, maybe we should, cool it a little bit until we assimilate everybody, most people will look at you like you're crazy.
Do you think the Catholic Church just told people pride is bad because they wanted to keep control of people?
Pride made Satan fall like lightning from heaven. I mean, pride is it's the sin in the Garden of Eden. Actually, Whittaker Chambers, ex-communist who wrote this great book, Witness, which actually helped bring Ronald Reagan from the left to the right. He said that communism is not a new ideology. Communism is the second oldest faith of mankind. It's the great alternative faith that began in the garden when the serpent told Adam and Eve, ye shall be as gods. And that presumption to be as a god that is the Bible story. That is what causes the fall. So I think it's in the heart of man. I don't think it's uniquely American, but we've all got it. There's no doubt about that.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.